Welcome back to Black Swan Outdoors, and today we are going to talk about my top travel items. Now, these are the things that I carry with me as I'm traveling around. I do a lot of travel for my job, and it gets me into places that sometimes in situations that are kind of precarious, but one of the fun things about it is that I get a chance to kind of test out some stuff, and I get to try out things to see what works well for me, just because I get to do it a lot. So there's a lot of people who don't get an opportunity to travel a whole lot. I understand that, and sometimes they just don't get why certain people do certain things. Now, when you're traveling, people become very habitual. They have their own rituals or have their own tips and tricks, things that make their experience very comfortable. And so oftentimes, particularly people that travel alone, become it becomes very ritualized in what they do, and it becomes hard to travel sometimes with other people who don't travel at the same pace or have the same type of routines that sometimes travelers have. Now, these are just kind of generalities. Not every traveler is like that, but this is just something that I've noticed, I've recognized in fellow travelers, and certainly within myself. And so myself, I get very habitual in what I travel with and the things that I bring with me as well. And so I thought I would talk about some of the stuff that I find to be particularly important. Now, everyone's going to talk about EDC or pocket dump or all those types of things, and yeah, that might be fun and exciting. I'm not really into that kind of stuff. However, there are some things that I do carry in my pockets with me, some things that I carry with me that all the time that I find to be very handy and helpful. So I guess, and this is really no particular order, but I will start with the very top, the most important things, and kind of then work my way down to kind of less important things. But all of these things are still, to me, very important. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's not that they're less important or non. They're just they are less important, but they're all equally important, I guess. I don't know what I'm saying. So let me just jump right into it. Very, very first thing I think is the most important thing to have on you, on your person, at the very bare minimum, is cash. You want to have cash with you. We live in a society of cards, and that's okay. That's fine. That's not a problem. However, there are some situations that you run into that you might need to use money. Now, everybody's amount is going to be different. Some people will suggest this, some people will suggest that. Everyone's situation is going to be different. So how much money you want to carry on there is going to depend on your comfort level. I will say that you want to carry a little bit more in the currency that you're at. So if you're not in your home country, have a little bit more of the currency that you're in your location. But you're also going to want to have the currency in which you plan on going to in case there's an emergency. So if you're in if a neighboring country is your backup plan, say something happens, a natural disaster, a coup, I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter, and you need to leave that country, having a little bit of cash of that neighboring country, whatever that plan is of where you're going to go, is going to be pretty critical. Especially if it's natural disaster and maybe payment forms aren't possible or temporarily or whatever it is, or you just need to pay for someone to get somewhere. You're also going to want to have money within your host country too, or your home country as well as your host country. So for me, being an American abroad, I'm going to have American cash. Now, this is a $100 bill. You might want smaller denominations, but I would say at least $200 in American dollars. And having a couple $100 bills can go a long way for big favors. So it just makes it a lot easier. So you might want to have, $100 in with a C note, and then maybe $100 of smaller denominations. And then I'm going to have another $100 or another $200 or so in my kind of host country cash. I think that that's a pretty good number. I normally, though, I will say that particularly if I'm going into an area where things might get a little hairy, I might carry a little bit more American dollars. And in that case, I think $400 is a pretty reasonable amount of money. It's not horrible if you lose it or if it gets lost for some reason or whatever. But it's enough money to pretty much get you in most places, in most situations, out of a situation. Domestically, $200 might be it. $300 depends on your comfort level. You know, you could be needing to leave to go somewhere, and then you want to have a hotel room that could be like $100-$150, right? In a lot of places, let's say, and then food while you're there. And so, you know, having that kind of emergency cash on hand could be pretty important. Now, keep in mind, not all purchases like airline tickets and hotel rooms are easily done on cash. Now, it can be done, which is another video for another conversation. So you want to have an emergency credit card of some kind. I definitely recommend that, you know, and I would carry that in my regular wallet generally, along with extra cash, or my spending cash. That's just how I travel. So what I'm saying is I'm going to have my money that I'm going to use, day-to-day money, the money that I've budgeted to use, the money that I use for work or whatever, but then I'm going to have reserve money that I'm not touching unless it's an emergency, in addition. Now, this money may or may not always be in my wallet, all right, in case I've got mugged or whatever. Sometimes I don't do it anymore, but I used to carry a fake wallet that I could use to throw, that had a couple bucks in there. I could throw it away. You know, if someone came up to me, I could take the wallet out, give it to them, toss it, whatever. I don't do that as much anymore, but what I do often is carry my extra money either in a first aid kit on my ankle, which I find particularly helpful and handy, or my kind of travel kit, a go bag, whatever you want to call it. I did a video on all the contents of this, and we'll talk about it in a second. Okay, so top of the line is cash. Next to cash, I would say in terms of importance is some kind of note card or emergency card. I call this a lifesaver card. Basically, it just has very important contact numbers on here, and medical conditions, blood type, allergies, things like that. If someone was to find you unconscious, what would they need to know to give you care, right? Who would they need to call? Also, if you were to get into trouble and you lost your phone, you didn't have any way to remember all of your, numbers on your phone, emergency numbers, how many numbers do we remember these days? Not very many. So I created this, this lifesaver card that you can put in your pocket. On the back here is a sample of my communications card, which I'm going to be updating here shortly, which is a communications plan that you can use for travel. And then I have a QR code that you can scan so you can get all this contact information and other important information in the cloud. So if somebody wants to find out a little bit more about you, they can scan this, get information about whatever it is that you want to communicate with them from Google Cloud. And then here are the instructions on how to use the radio in case you need to communicate with somebody via this communications plan. So again, I'm going to be upgrading this a little bit. But the idea here is that you have this on you. I put a little lanyard hole on here because you'd want to wear it around your neck. Take it out of your wallet or out of your pocket. Wear it around your neck in a severe crisis situation is my recommendation. Think of it as like a dog tag in that regard. It's on your person. If you get completely stripped down for whatever reason, you have this card, your emergency numbers, people who you can call to fall back on. This is something modeled off of what a lot of NGOs do, a lot of workers around the world working for non-government organizations. And in fact, they will carry a card that is even more comprehensive than this. It'll have hotel numbers. I mean, it's got a jam-packed full of numbers on there. And again, maybe I'll model it off that, but this is just a simple one that you can put in your wallet. But most likely, or my recommendation is, for most of the time, you're going to want this when you're moving about in a unfamiliar place. So not at home, in your pocket, right? Not in your wallet. Again, if your wallet gets stolen, right, then all of your cards, all your numbers get stolen, all of your contact information. Similar with your cell phone, which is a #1 thing that people are going to target to steal from you, either in your hotel room or on the street, right? They're going to take all of your numbers. And so you don't have your numbers available, you're out of luck. Now, you don't have to make something fancy. You don't have to print something off like this that I have. You can just use a regular, 3x5 note card, write it out, laminate it if you want to, put it in your pocket and go. Alternatively, also what I really like are the Write and Rain pads, which I forgot to grab, because they're waterproof. Right on the first couple pages, all of your emergency number, stick that in your pocket. The drawback with the Write and Rain pad is that it's a pad, it's going to be bulkier. It's not as easy, lightweight, in anything that's more inconvenient, even if it's the slightest bit, becomes a deterrent, in my opinion. So the smaller, lighter, you can go the best. So write that stuff out, rip it out of the notepad, and then use it in your pocket or whatever, or even put it in your insole of your shoe, which is a good segue to my next most important piece of gear: comfortable walking shoes. So important. A lot of times people don't think of their footwear. And their footwear is absolutely the most important thing, particularly when you're traveling, or if you're going in places where you're not comfortable or know how to get around. That means you're going to be walking a little bit more. Maybe you're not as familiar with the public transportation, or whatever the reason is. If you're traveling, you're probably going to be walking a little bit more than what you're used to. So making sure you have very good, comfortable shoes. I like these Vasks. These are awesome, super comfortable, I don't know if they're stylish, but very, very comfortable, lightweight. They're super lightweight, and they work really well for me. They've got a nice, hiking tread. They're a little worn here, but vibrant sole, so they're good for on trail and off trail. Always laced shoes. That's a rule. When I used to work, with Secret Service and Department of State, all those guys, if you notice that not only do they always wear, their suit, but if you look at their footwear, it's always laced shoes. That gives them the ability to not only beat feet in trouble, but also fight if they need to, kick. You can't kick anyone in flip-flops or loafers. That becomes pretty difficult. So, at any rate, shoes, very important. When all things break down, you rely on your feet. And when you're traveling, that's, I think, really important. So those are my tops, my top things. The other stuff that I really like to make sure that I have is a good watch, a good, reliable watch. Nothing too fancy, but nothing too cheap either. That range is going to be that comfort range is going to be different for other people. Personally, I don't like the idea of carrying something like a Rolex or some other type of luxury watch, because it's going to, in the situations that I'm in personally, that is going to stick out, right? And I don't want to be a target for robbery or burglary or anything like that. And that is basically what it flashes. It also flashes a level of professionalism, but also insecurity as well, in my opinion. Now, people could disagree with that, but when people have to wear a very expensive watch, it's oftentimes overcompensates for things. Now, obviously, if you are an avid collector of watches, or you're in a peer group in which most people are wearing these watches, executives, things like that, that's very, very different. But for most of the world, nobody really wears luxury watches on a regular basis, right? So, you know, Citizen, Seiko, you know, there's a number of different brands that are out there that are very good, very reliable. There are some inexpensive mechanical watches that are fine too. You know, sticking around that $1,000, you know, $200 to $1,000 mark or so, you'll probably be okay. But again, you know, you don't want to be too overtly flashy. My personal favorite watch is the Flightmaster. I'll probably do a video on this sometime soon, but I have done some posts on it. It is a fantastic watch. It's just jam-packed full of features. It's a little busy for a lot of people. But for traveling, I can do conversions, I can do mathematics, I can do all sorts of different types of calculations on the fly with this, which is super handy, particularly if you don't have a cell phone. Why would I not have a cell phone? Because oftentimes my cell phone is going to be in my next kit item, which is a Faraday bag. So I like to keep all of my chargers and cords and stuff in there, keeping enough room that I can put my wallet in here, I can put my phone in here, anything that has emitting a radio frequency signal. We talk a lot about this. We talk about it in several of my books and on the posts. We have a great personal security rundown on our Patreon if you're interested in all of the uses and the different reasons why you'd want to carry something like this. But this is from Mission Darkness, and it blocks out all radio signals and keeps me, I guess, safe in that regard. Next up, I would say, are maps. I didn't have any other printed maps out, but I had this tissue map that I made for a previous video. Just as a representation of a map. I guess I have, I might have a map in here. Yeah, so I have like a couple maps in here that have, you know, just kind of area maps in case you get turned around. Now, you could certainly use a GPS. That's fine. GPS rely on batteries. Okay, that's fine. You can pick up new batteries if you need them. So I'm not terribly concerned with that, but that I would want to carry extra batteries. So the extra weight of the GPS and the batteries might be, but in an emergency, it might be something I could carry in my bag. Certainly, I'm not opposed to the idea of carrying a GPS, but if you can print off a few kind of local maps, I'm going to do a video or a post on different types of travel maps that you can set up for emergencies and for regular use. That'll be in the future, but you know, certainly maps are important. That also does bring us then to this little hip pack. I did a video on this before, so I won't go into all the details of all the things that are in here, but essentially the idea is that you have this on your person if you can, all the time. So you're sitting on a bus in transit, you're at a hotel room, whatever. You have this with you, so that in the middle of the night you had to leave your hotel room. What do you grab? You don't need to grab all of your luggage. You have this is grabbed. You can just throw it around your waist or around your neck or around your shoulder, whatever, and take it and go. If you're on transport, you're already wearing this. If you're separated from your luggage, even if you have a carry-on, right, it might be an overhead compartment, it might be under your seat, you can't get to it, but you need to get out. You get out super fast, you have water purification, you have money, you have a bandana, you have, you know, super, you know, handy things to have on you in that emergency situation. But you also have, while you're just traveling and you're in that non-emergency mode, stuff that you can grab with you that you need consistently. Passport, pull it out, right? I was in line once and a kid had a bloody nose, just randomly had a bloody nose. and I was able to pull out a bandana and give him a handkerchief that he needed to help him out. You know, so I've got food, whatever, all sorts of stuff in here. Just handy things to have on your person to grab and go, not just for an emergency, but just general comfort as well. Next item here would be a flashlight. I like these kind of smaller, that when I'm traveling, I don't like to carry tactical flashlights. They're big, they're bulky. I think that it's not necessarily mag lights I used for a long time. I still like them because you don't accidentally turn them on. But, you know, I've been in situations where power has gone out in the hotel and needed a flashlight to get through the hallway, down the staircase, and out to safety. You drop something in between the seat and your airline, you know, super handy to have. You'll note the pilots all carry, or a lot of them carry, a flashlight of some kind. So the uses are pretty much endless. Very, very handy. They're probably kind of a go-to tool, maybe second to pocket knife. I like these standard Swiss Army knives. They're cheap. They're disposable in a sense that if you forget to pack it in your luggage as you're going through a magnetometer or security and you have this on you, no big deal if you had to surrender it. Great, you know, tools, you know, things that you need, you know, I think they're super handy to have. You know, next up with this would be a Leatherman. You know, a lot more tools on the Leatherman, but in terms of light and usefulness, I find my Swiss Army knife is something that I use a lot more while I'm traveling in particular than the Leatherman. Plus, they're a little bit more expensive. Now, there are some times and some places where I want to carry a larger, kind of more comprehensive, more kind of performance-focused blade. And particularly maybe for self-defense. Now keep in mind, America is one of the few countries that allows a knife as an excuse for self-defense. You go to Canada, you go to England, Australia, other places in Europe, knives for defense is not a thing. You can't carry a knife for defensive purposes. So, as much as I love the karambit, from a defensive perspective, and I had done some articles about how great of a knife this is. It is freaking scary looking, and it's not going to do nothing but flag other people, if anything, if they're going to see a weapon like this. It's also harder to say, oh, officer, you know, this is not a defensive blade. So what I look for is kind of a sturdy locking blade, something without any mechanics. You don't want any assist, and something at 3.5 or smaller, right? So this particular knife from Elmar is 3.6, so it's a little above my my rule, but it does not look, to me, it does not look tactical. It's not a tactical, dangerous looking knife, but it functions very well. Zero tolerance, Benchmade, you know, some of the other kind of top brands also are good, you know, good knives to look for. Again, you don't want something super expensive that it's not replaceable. But like a watch, in my opinion, not to get too, you know, snobby, there are some things that I think you should spend some quality money on. You know, you can, having a dependable flashlight, having a dependable knife, very, very handy for on and off trail use, all sorts of stuff. I've just liked the Elmar in terms of its look, and I'm willing to risk having to explain. But again, it's not an automatic, you know, auto knife. It's not, it has no mechanical assistance. And so in most places, it's fine. You can get by with carrying that. And then lastly, again, I've talked a little bit about it before, which is the ankle IFAK. Sometimes I put more things than necessary inside here. Little escape and evasion kit, which can also easily just go in this bag. I like to, I've done videos on this before, so I won't talk about it too much, but drug and, blood type on there, tourniquet, whatever you want to put in your IFAK is fine. Just keep it simple. Didn't think I would ever need this, but I was in a traveling in a developing country, and there was a bad accident, it was a situation. I didn't have to use a tourniquet in that particular situation, but I was glad that I had it on my person. I was glad that it was with me. I know there's a lot of context around tourniquets and firearms, but there's so many other situations which you might need them. I'm personally in and around chainsaws a lot, so having an IFAK on my person, in that kind of situation, super handy also. So if I don't want to wear this on my ankle, it's easy enough just to throw it in another bag, and I have a travel IFAK with me. Again, you don't have to go too comprehensive. You don't have to look at like what a Navy SEAL is going to carry, and that's not the point. It's just having a few items there, some and this small Israeli bandage, maybe some quick clot or something, or some compression gauze, and a chest seal maybe, and a tourniquet, and that's pretty much all I would think in most situations you would need from that. You can certainly carry smaller, medical items, drugs, band-aids, things like that in your hip pack if you wanted to, if you thought that was necessary. All right, so I kind of went on for a while here. I would love to see what you recommend on your trips and what you travel with. Hopefully, maybe this was helpful for those that might be planning a trip somewhere. Again, you don't have to emulate what I'm doing. You don't have to emulate the name brands and the different stuff, obviously. I hope you don't. I hope you find what works for you. It's more of the rationale behind some of the stuff. Where to spend money on, where to put your time and focus on, and why is kind of hopefully what you're getting out of this video. And it's just from my experience. There are other travelers out there that might have other situations or other things that they would recommend. And if that's the case, like I said, put that in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Check out our Patreon. More videos on the way.